What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. We managed to get 2R out of the Bitcoin trade yesterday. Unfortunately, the other two Forex ideas just kind of chopped around and just got completely invalidated. But today we're going to have another Bitcoin trade set up, and I'm going to give you like 3 other trade ideas to consider. One of which I've already hit a TP on. In fact, if you follow me on Twitter, you would have already seen me call the trade. In fact, here it is. In fact, like the trade from yesterday and the trade from today, like both of them I called on Twitter. So if you'd like to just follow along with the live updates for these trades, again, the link to follow my Twitter is completely free and down below. But anyways, let's get into the markets today. First things first, let's take a quick look at Bitcoin. Now, so far, you already confirmed a bearish daily bias. So today, the setup is going to be very, very obvious. Now, before I get into this though, I'm just going to remind this again, and I know I sound like a broken record at the moment. Before I get into the short-term setup for Bitcoin, I want you to understand that in terms of the higher time frame, you are looking pretty bad. Now, this is a bearish fair value gap where price just currently came into on the weekly chart. So far, the trend on the weekly chart is bearish. Like there is no time frame where this is going to tell you it is bullish, at least on the higher time frame. And secondly, the thing you need to know is that one of the ways that I was able to predict the markets being like just basically predicting that Bitcoin was going to go down at this point right here. In fact, if you go back to my videos from before, you will see that I have been talking about this like every single video, like the thumbnails, like, hey, sell here, man, go short. One of the reasons why I was able to do that is, first of all, I got a change in order flow, basically an order flow confirmation that you have broken down into a downtrend. Second of all, price came back into some sort of a PD array on the weekly chart, where afterwards you form that weekly bearish candle, which leads to this. Now, so far, again, you have gotten that same order flow confirmation. You are coming back into this fair value gap right here, and you've just printed your weekly candle. So I want to warn you that this stuff can happen fast. I don't know what is your investment strategy. I'm not going to give you financial advice, but what I will say is that you want to start positioning yourselves into some sort of a Bitcoin swing setup. Fun fact, from October to basically December of last year was probably my most profitable period throughout the entire year. The reason why that is because price was just dropping like a rock. As traders, we have the ability to make money both when the market is going up and when the market is going down. When the market, as long as there is volatility, we can make money. And in this case, I'm expecting some volatility to come into the market soon, and it's not going to be the good kind. But anyways, with that out of the way, let's get into the daily setup. So again, we've already identified that the weekly is bearish. On the daily, you are also bearish because you closed bearish yesterday. And so today, we're just going to be looking for opportunities to jump into some sort of a short. Now, so far, you've gotten a bearish CISD below this line right here. So this entire blue box right here is going to be a bearish order block until proven otherwise. Now, I know that you have a bullish kind of CISD over here, but again, until you break above this block, you are still considered bearish, or at the very least, we're going to lean towards the bearish side. Now, I'm going to be upfront with you here that Bitcoin is not the best setup that I see for today. I've got 3 other charts coming up that will potentially give you a better setup. Unfortunately, they're not crypto, but the fact that we have news today means that there is still a potential for Bitcoin to give you a high probability setup. In fact, I'm even pretty certain the news is, in fact, now that I think of it, the news from today is probably not even on USD, because remember clearly that news is tomorrow. Now, since Forex Factory is not loading, we're going to come back to this later. But for now, understand that the setup for Bitcoin is bearish, but just kind of like half-half, right? Because you can kind of make an argument based on the hourly chart that, oh yeah, you've got an bullish CISD. So technically it's supposed to be looking for a long, but in terms of the 5-minute chart, also quite bullish, but like on every other higher time frame, it's bearish so far. So kind of like giving mixed signals. So this is not the one that I'm going to go for, at least not the way that the chart is looking right now, right? If there are any updates, I'm going to post it on the X later. But for now, the scenario you're going to want to look for is between the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Ideally, you want to get a candle close on the 1 hourly chart below 76,506, like 70 or 580. Once you get that, this will kind of validate this as a potential bearish order block, and then you can start getting into trades, right? This is going to be the highest probability of like confirmation. Now, if you don't get it, it doesn't mean that you cannot, just trade it, but it's like, it's going to be a bit more risky, right? You're going to be more prone to losing the trade. So with that out of the way, let's get into the 3 setups that I think are going to be kind of like bangers as far as today is concerned. Now, the first one is going to be on Euro. Now, Euro, you have a bullish daily bias. You're coming back into this bullish fair value gap over here. In terms of the 1 hourly, you are coming into a couple of relatively equal lows here. So once, in fact, you have already swept the relatively equal lows, which is a really good sign. So now that you've swept it, right, you're literally just going to be looking for a 5-minute CISD. In fact, depending on what time it happens, it's going to be here. So 5-minute CISD, as long as you're watching this video and order flow is already bullish, and you are between the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., it's already good enough to go, basically just momentum trading this towards the upside. So potentially some sort of a trade like that, and you're going to target this high over here, which will give you a 2R, very solid. And this is, mind you, a pretty wide stop. You could get a much more refined entry and stop loss if you were to trade it based on momentum. Now, obviously, if price just ends up getting a hourly candle close underneath this couple of lows here, then this trade setup is just going to be invalidated, and we're not going to touch euro for the rest of the day. Because the daily bias is bullish, we're only going to be prioritizing longs. This is one of the ways that I prevent myself from getting into bad trades, or just trades that are just going completely counter to whatever the direction the trend is going. So for euro, again, the validation scenario is if you get that hourly candle close, and if not, like, yeah, you're good to go. Now, secondly, we're going to take a look at gold. Now, gold is also pretty interesting. At the moment, it's coming to take out these relatively equal lows. I'm already in a position here, but I'm probably going to have to, cut myself out shortly, because it started, playing out well at the start, but now that you've gotten that bearish, in fact, I'm going to get right back to you, because I don't see a point taking a full loss if I can just close it out right here, right now, at a half loss. So that's a loss trade on gold. But moving forward, like, the scenario you're going to want to look for is for all of these relatively equal lows to get swept. And once they do, you're going to look for a bullish CISD towards the upside. And that is going to be your setup on gold. And mind you, gold has already swept out this very major liquidity point right here. So if there is a place where it is going to have a reversal, it's probably going to be here. And you've already gotten some early signs of CISD in terms of the higher timeframes. So right now, it's just basically catching a refined lower timeframe entry in order to take advantage of the move all the way there. So gold, very straightforward. You're going to look for these lows to get swept, and then you're going to look for a V-shaped recovery. That's the one that I'm going to be paying attention to during the New York session later. Now, in terms of oil, this is also going to be one other, kind of A+ setup where you have a bullish daily bias. Well, it's clearly bullish. I've already hit my TP on this. So like any future kind of trades is just going to be based off of this order block right here / this order block. So right now, this order block is not confirmed yet. You still need a candle close above this before you can jump into it. But essentially waiting for price to come into here, forming that bullish CISD on the 5-minute chart. And you're just going to be trading this, continuing to buy high and sell higher all the way up to 105.5. This will potentially give you a, I don't know, like a 10-to-1 risk reward. Yeah, basically like a 10-to-1. So the risk parameters are very much in your favor here. So definitely don't sit in this one out. Now, as usual, I'm going to post any live updates onto X. And if you'd like to work with me directly to help you get profitable within the next 120 days or so, feel free to click the first link in the description box below and just book a call. We've helped so many people do this, and I would love for you to be the next success story. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Ciao, ciao.